Thank you. Excited to be here. I've actually never been on this side of the world before, so it's been a lot of fun. My talk today, don't rewrite, react. Get it? I was going to talk about accessibility, and that's what was on most of the schedules. As I was preparing that talk, I didn't have anything new from what I had talked about at Mountain-West.js a year and a half ago. So if you want to see what I was going to talk about, go find that video on YouTube, Mountain-West JavaScript 2014. It was a great talk, and I cared deeply about accessibility. In fact, my wife hears about me talk about accessibility so much that when I bought some euros, I got them, and I went to fold them up and stick them in my pocket like I do US dollars, but you can't really fold them all together because they're all different sizes, right? And I thought, well, why would they do this? This is ridiculous. And I said, I can't fold them up. And my wife goes, well, what if you were blind? It's like, that's right. Now I can tell which bill is which, and it makes a whole lot more sense. So anyway, don't be like Ryan Seacrest and try to high-five a blind guy. Consider what the world is like for them and study up on accessibility and learn how to do it. I know the great irony is that accessibility on the web is really inaccessible to learn, but you can do it. This was one of my applications a while ago. We had this requirement to to paint a white line on the edge of the road because our users were confused about where the edge of the road was. And so we wanted to put a white line on it so it was more clear. And I got to this branch and I thought, who put this branch here? Why is this branch here? I bet if I touch it, the whole road will explode. I'll just draw my line around it, and then I'll keep writing my code. Anyone have apps like this? You see that code, and you're not sure why the branch is there. It seems ridiculous, but let's just leave it alone. Oh, sorry. And then we hear about React. Like, you know what? I bet if I bring React into this, I could get rid of all those branches, and then I could draw some straight lines. And so you go to your team, and you say, you know that big feature that everyone's afraid of touching, and we keep just drawing the white lines around it? Why don't we rewrite that in React? And this is the approach that I had taken in the past, before I got a hold of React, to try to bring new technology into my stack. And there's a lot of benefits to bringing new tech into your stack. Number one, it's new tech, so it's more fun. A lot of people think that this is not a valid reason to adopt new tech, but it's great for recruiting. When you're interviewing someone, and they ask, okay, what's your stack? And you say, well, the back end is Rails 2.3, and the front end is, there's a lot of jQuery, and then there's another folder that's mostly Backbone. Then there was this bit where we did CoffeeScript for a little while, and then there's another folder that's got some Angular stuff in it, and then this other team is doing some member stuff, and the interviewer is like, or the interviewee is thinking, sounds fun. Then they interview somewhere else, and they're like, oh yeah, it's all React, top to bottom, and GraphQL. Well, maybe not yet, but soon. People get excited about that, and they want to take that job more than another one. Like, tech matters to us. The products matter to a lot of developers, but I have learned that there are a lot of us out there that really do not care what we're building. What we care about is the tech that we get to use. I feel really silly because I'm the opposite, and I care about the product a lot. But yeah, it's a big deal. So historically, we get a new piece of tech, and we say, okay, let's rewrite this feature. And that feature's got a lot of different screens in it. But unfortunately, when we start that rewrite from the top, all those blocks just went white, right? Like this is not shipped code, and none of those features are there anymore. So we start the rewrite. And we start at the top, and then we get one of the little features over on the side done. We start working on this one over here, and we have no idea what is happening in this code. And so we're a little bit afraid of it. We don't quite understand it. And all of a sudden, we learn that there's a bug somewhere below that section. And we're thinking, okay, should I go fix that bug in the current code, like what's shipped out there? Or should I fix it in the rewrite? I can't really deal with it right now because I haven't figured out the view above this. And so I can't get down to that lower one and fix the bug in the rewrite. And then product comes to you and says, hey, we want a feature over here. And you're thinking, oh, but I haven't, like I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to figure out the other one, and I got to fix that bug, and now they want a feature over here. Do I go add that feature to the old code? Do I quit working on this really confusing one and start working on this to get that new feature in? And then they want a feature down here, and you're like, oh no, that's a feature in the code that I still don't understand what's happening. I think they're triggering events on document and then subscribing to those events in like 8 other files, but I haven't quite figured that out yet. So you're sitting in sprint planning, and this is your team all excited because we're using React. The rest of the company, however, is like, hey, friends, it's on fire. Why are you pausing and taking a picture? I love this from Mixonic. He's a well-known developer in the Ember community. Some people, when confronted with a problem, think, I know, I'll use a long-lived branch. Now they have 2 problems and a blocked team. Rewriting this way is, like, it's awful. I've been through it. We had this thing that we called draft state, and we worked on it forever, and we weren't shipping anything. Then by the time you ship it, this is how everyone feels about the rewrite. Very disillusioned, very upset. Fidel Castro is not what I thought he was. You can look this guy up and learn about that. Disillusioned. So you ship, but no one's excited anymore. You're all actually really bummed about this rewrite. And while we know that the tech underneath that we just used is better, when we go to try to pitch like, hey, that went really great for us, the developers, we'd like to go and rewrite this thing now. And your team is, no, we're not doing that again. You should be able to iterate to new technology just like you can iterate to new versions of technology. If you're going from a 1.0 to a 2.0, people care a lot about giving you a really great upgrade path. Being able to go from no.0 to 1.0, you should be able to iterate to that. So with React, you can actually take a very different approach to this problem. Instead of coming in from the top somewhere, let's come in from the bottom. Let's find the tiniest view that makes sense to rewrite in React. For me, in one of our applications, it was the profile form. That was it. You had a little form, you'd fill it out, you'd hit enter, it'd make a request to the server, save your profile, and then it would redirect you to your profile page. So I went ahead and I rewrote that little form in React. It was like 40 lines of code. Committed it. That evening, it went out onto master and then out to production, and we had React in the app. And then you rewrite the profile show page. So we had the form in React, and now we're going to display that information in React. You write it, you commit it, you ship it, and now it's out there. There's no big, great rewrite that's going on that's making everyone grumpy and blocking your entire team. If we find a bug over here in the app, well, we can just go and either fix the bug or use that as a great opportunity to rewrite that little piece in React as we fix the bug. Or not, just go fix the bug in the old code. And then we continue on up the tree, and someone wants a feature over here in the app. Stop what you're doing, go over there, add a feature, add it in the old code, it's fine. And then you just keep climbing up the tree, and every time all the siblings are rewritten in React, you can combine them. React's component model makes composing code together so simple that when you get to this point where you've got this handful of views that are all siblings and then the parent that's putting them together, it's really easy to just turn that parent into a React component and then grab these other ones you've already built and then compose them together. Until eventually you have your entire app rewritten in React. And then we can start changing these blue dots to purple ones in 3 years when something else is cooler than React. Hopefully not. It's inevitable. React 2.0, React 3.0, something else might be more interesting, and you could do this very same thing again. I don't want to talk about that yet. Let's see what this looks like in a real application. Real. I say this all the time at our trainings when I talk about this app. What good is a JavaScript event if we don't talk about to-do MVC? You can see when I reload this, we get like a nice flash of information. That is a clue to you. Oh, this is a Backbone app. Make that nice and big. No clapping. No clapping for that. In Backbone's defense, it also has this characteristic where you can climb up the tree. So, I don't know. Aren't you so glad you have Webpack now and Browserify? This stuff is hilarious to me. Someone asked me at a training, if you had to pick between React and Webpack as like the technologies that came out in the last year or two, which would you pick? I don't know. Probably React, but it would be a really hard choice for me. Okay, so we've got this app in Backbone. What do I need to do? Finish my talk, find some air conditioning, find a drink with water, eat some vegetables, because all they have is bread in France. It's good, though. I did find some air conditioning in the fancy speaker place. You can't go there, sorry. I did find some vegetables. Okay, so down here I can click on these links and move things around. You know how this app works, and then I could clear all the completed things. This little footer to me seems like a really nice section of my app to remove from Backbone and redo in React. So let's see just how quickly we can do this. So over here, I have added my footer component, which is a React component. And then I can come back over to my app. They've got this stats template that they use down here in render. Let's just take a minute and look at this render method. After you've been doing React for a while, this render method is like really strange to think about. We're saying if we've got some length of to-dos, let's go and grab some elements and call methods on them. Inside of render, we're going to manage the state of instances over time. Let's go find one tiny piece of our template and let's change that little piece inside of there to some other HTML. Now let's select some things and manually manipulate their attributes. And otherwise, let's hide some stuff. And then let's make an assignment inside of render. If you call this .setState in a React render, you get an error because we're rendering, we are not changing state. So anyway, this code leaves a lot of bugs, and so we're excited to bring React into here. So we just want to change this footer. So I'm going to hang on to the footer here. I want my properties here, so I'll hang on to those. And then I can say React.render. And then I had my footer. Let's bring these up here. And bring my footer up, grab the actual DOM node. All we need in React, all we need is one element that's already in the page, and we can start rendering with React. So we start at that footer. Let's make sure that I have my footer in the page somewhere. React is not defined. Oh no! But I prepared my talk at 2 in the morning. Quick, put web back in. No. All right, so I need to bring React into here. And I need to bring in the JSX transformer. Don't actually use this thing in production. Actually, I think it's going away completely. And then I need to bring in my view. Ooh, those thumps are really loud. I'll try to type softly. Okay, we've got our footer. Whew. Oh, no. It gets better, I promise. Well, where's my template? It's in here. I've got some quote-unquote server-rendered stuff going on. Those of you who are watching on the video, you might notice I'm sweating bullets, but it's one of those to-do items. Oh, I found it. I need to get back into AC. Okay. So here is the dynamic stuff. All right, so I'm going to grab this template out of here and come back to my component and just oh, whoops. I'm not very good at Vim sometimes. Oh, now I've lost everything because I saved. Don't worry about me. Discard. Okay. Let's try that again, huh? Here we go. I won't delete it this time. I didn't save, so I think I'm okay. Okay, so now my next task is to find the old template stuff and switch it over to JSX. My next one. And I got this little if. So let's say completed, yes. Let's render the button. Otherwise, let's not do anything. Okay, and now I like to touch these templates as little as possible when I'm converting from somewhere else, because if I mess with the template, I'm going to have some regressions. And I want my team to be excited about switching things over to new technology. So I can say completed equals this dot props dot completed, and then I can say, what was the other one, remaining is remaining. Now where did these props come from? If we come back over here and look at our app view, we passed them in to our component. And actually I believe it's on app.footer. Let's double check that. Yeah, okay. Think it's going to work? No? What'd I do wrong? Oh, I actually did delete my... Oh, now I know what you were telling me. Thank you. So I prepare like my tasks that I need to do for our trainings and conferences, and then I get all the help from everybody else. And so I don't have to write a whole lot of my own code, and it works out really well. Yeah, I still got my footer down there. Okay. There it is. Still works. The actions aren't happening though, right? Like Backbone is still handling that kind of stuff. So when we want to get information down to a component in React, we pass props, right? And when we want to get information back up from a component, we pass a function in as a prop and then call it from the component. So I can come up to my view and quit handling this really hard to follow delegation stuff. You know, you may have an action that's way high with this kind of event delegation and you don't know where it's coming from. So instead of handling an action from a template somewhere else completely, we're going to have React do this. So I've got this clear completed method. And now I come down to my React app and I say on clear completed. Oh, actually, I can just say this.clear completed. So inside of my Backbone app, I've got this function that's going to be called, and it'll clear everything up. So now if I go back to my footer, I can say on click, start handle clear click. Yeah, it is. Thank you. No, it's not. Quit messing me up. I train on React for a living. Just trust me. Handle clear click. And now I can click this here, and the action gets handled in React, and then it sends the information back up to the app. So what I really love about React when you're iterating to it, you can come in at the bottom, and then from there, it's all the same principles that apply to any React app. They apply to iterating to React. To get information to your component, you send props. To get information back out from your component, you send functions, and then you call them back up. So that's pretty cool. Okay, back to this. If I were to go at my old job, I'm really excited about GraphQL. I'm very excited about it. I think it's obviously the right answer to building UI and the data needs that we have there. However, I know that if I went to my team and said, hey, we started using React and it's really cool. You guys would love it if you ever worked with it. It'd be really nice if our backend could speak GraphQL now so that we can build these new features. We can't do it until we have a GraphQL backend. They're going to view you like a couple of clowns. Front-end people telling me how to build my servers. So I'm very excited about GraphQL, but it's going to be kind of hard to get there for a lot of teams. Greenfield apps, absolutely. You could just go there from the start. Brownfield applications, however, you'll need to, that's awesome that we just learned that we can iterate toward it as well. But you'll have to convince some people. And so then you think, all right, I'll build my own cache in the front end because I don't get to use Relay because I don't have a GraphQL backend. Man, sometimes it's just not quite worth doing everything amazingly well and having these really robust client-side caches. Sometimes you really just want to make AJAX requests to the server and save things, and then once that finishes, do something else. That's part of iterating to React, is making some of these trade-offs. React Router used to not work very well when it came to iterating toward React in an existing app. Michael is going to talk a whole lot more about React Router tomorrow and a lot of the great things that we're doing there. But one of the newer things in the 1.0 API that I'm excited about is you can treat the router as a pure component. You can get some properties that you need for its initial state and hand it to it, and then it will match all of the views and render for you. But it doesn't necessarily have to set up a listener on the URL. You can just hand it information if you can figure that out yourself. So if you've got some other router and you want to iterate to React and you want to bring in the nesting that React Router gives you, you can use some other router that's already in your app, and all we need from you is a path name and a query. Then we can have this thing called a location. You can run that with your routes and that location, and you'll get back some initial state. You'll learn why that's async for Michael tomorrow, and pass that initial state in, and it will just render as though it was listening to the URL, even though it's not. So this is really exciting stuff. So you can use React Router as you migrate toward React in your applications. The other thing is data dependencies, right? We're all really excited about Relay, and we're excited about GraphQL, and Falcor is very similar. This idea that you can define, that you can co-locate your data dependencies with your components. And this is an idea that's very, very appealing to me. And the router, fortunately or unfortunately, is right in the middle of this problem. Because you get your dependencies most of the time from the URL. You have some sort of parameters. What group am I looking at? What user am I looking at? Which assignment am I grading? Those kinds of questions come from the URL. And so another thing that we wanted the router to be able to do was to be able to let you plug in data abstractions to React Router. Especially Relay was was the main push for this. We wanted to be able to have the router work with Relay seamlessly. So we've got a few new spots in the router to handle this kind of stuff. And we're actually shipping a little thing called async props. You can find it in lib experimental async props. And this allows you to add some static methods to your components. Well, one static method, load props. It hands you the parameters that came from the URL, the user ID, the assignment, and a callback. And that's it. It's not backed by any language like JSON Graph or GraphQL. Just some simple callbacks. And so you have your URL. You can go and fetch that URL, and then just call back with an object of properties. And what's going to happen is async props will pause routing while this is happening. And I hope I have a minute to show how that works because it's really cool. It pauses routing, waits till these props load, and then it renders. So down here, I don't have to do any like if this dot state dot loaded or any of that kind of branching. I know I'm going to get props right off the bat. It's also great for testing because now when you want to unit test one of these, you can just throw some props at it and go. You don't have to stub out a bunch of AJAX requests. Now to make this happen, in your route config, we have this new property called createElement. So the router creates the elements for you so that we can get some properties in there like the parameters and the query and all that. But you can pass in a function and create that element yourself. We'll give you the information that we need to make an element, and now you can just make the element for us. So async props creates these elements for you, and a similar thing would work for Relay or Falcor or any other data abstraction. And then I wrap it all in this async props component. And this component kind of owns the loading, and it loads everything in parallel before rendering. And now from there, it's just a plain old route config, and you can just do it as you did before. If you're using some sort of Flex implementation, here's like a really vanilla Flex implementation. In load props, we create this listener, and when this listener gets called, we see if our recipes are there. If we have them, then I'm calling this callback set props here, because that's essentially what's happening. Let's set those props with the recipes, add a change listener, so when the store changes, we're going to call the listener. On teardown, we pass in this on teardown method, or function. So when this route gets left, we'll call this and remove that listener for you so you can do some cleanup, and then you fire off your action to load these things. And then the whole Flux loop will go around in a circle, and this listener will get called, and then we'll finish the render. So because of Flux's data flow model, this looks a little bit, I don't know, longer to do than a plain old callback, but you get all the benefits of Flux there. So let's look at a real implementation here. This example that I do everywhere. Notice you can render a loading thing now before you load anything. And then as I click on these links, it's pulling these from those definitions straight from my components. Notice sometimes it's fast, other times it's slow and then fades in. It's really important to me that I can start my data fetching before I show some UI. If my server is really slow, it's fine to like throw a spinner up on the next page, but if my server's fast, you get a lot of flashes, right? And you click around and you get like a flash and then data, a flash and then data. So this leaves the old screen up and renders down with a loading prop. So I can come down here and inside of my app, I can decide, hey, this .props.loading, that's coming down from async props. If so, the opacity transition should be an ease with a 250 millisecond delay. So if it's really fast, if my server responds really quickly, then I don't get any fading at all, like on that one. But if it's slow, it starts to fade and then comes back in to give the user some feedback. And the way it accomplishes that is it saves its old props into state and renders with the old state. So cool. You can handle asynchrony in React just by saving your old props and rendering them again. So that's it. That is how you can migrate from whatever you're at now to React. And I hope you have a lot of fun doing it.